All right, the time has come once again for Star Trek, the original series trivia. Eric,
I'm excited about this one.
lay it on us.
This is one of the big ones that I talked about before, the longer questions.
Okay.
So, all right.
I
This
guess
question.
we have to pad out the love letter review.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, exactly. Not much to talk about with love letters. So, all right. When a beautiful alien stole Spock's physical brain to run her planet's computer system.
I just want to say that the physical brain is one of the top
not
types
his
of a
ephemeral
brain to have. Go on.
Okay. I know the episode already. Continue.
Okay. I'm sorry. She stole his physical brain.
His physical brain, yes.
Not his allegorical one.
Hey, look. You don't know anything about Vulcans, okay? They might have a spiritual or ephemeral brain. Who knows?
Yeah. Okay.
It depends on the plot.
Yeah, exactly. She took his physical brain and to run. Okay, when a beautiful alien stole Spock's physical brain to run her planet's computer system, it began a bizarre race against time for the Enterprise crew to find the missing brain and return it. The strange dichotomy of the female Imorg's technology complicated matters. The Imorgs themselves possessed only a primitive intelligence, but the one who stole the brain was advanced enough to perform a complicated surgical procedure. Dr. McCoy theorized that the Imorg's dependence on the computer to provide everything they needed atrophied their intellectual capabilities. Nevertheless, to save Spock, McCoy had to link up with their computer in an attempt to gain the knowledge he needed to replace Spock's missing brain. While the Enterprise crew was interrogated, a line was spoken that would become an ironic science fiction idiom. Who uttered the immortal words, "Brain and brain! What is brain?" A. Spock. B. Luma. C. Kara. Or D. The Morgue Guard. That was awesome. That was so good. Goodbye, Churchill. Goodbye, Batman. Did I?
Yeah.
Well, I may have been wrong.
Welcome to A Piece of the Action. I'm Micah.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Greg. And I can never get the camera. There I am. Hi.
This week, we are looking at the game Love Letter. I've been told, I haven't played it, but I've been told that it is a super short game, so this will probably not be a super long review. But a game came out in 2012 by a designer named Seiji Kanai, and Eric and Greg played Love Letter, and they informed me that, contrary to what I thought previously, it is not anything at all like Churchill.
That was the funniest text I've ever seen in my life.
That was awesome. That was so good.
I figured because I know nothing about Love Letter. I assume that it's a game in which the two players are writing love letters back and forth to each other, and in that sort of, made to be a two-player style game, which is sort of what I thought the vibe of Churchill was.
Well, Churchill is an explicitly three-player game. It can only be played three players. So from the beginning premise, you were wrong.
Yeah, I remember the text was something along the lines of, "Isn't Love Letter a two-player only game like Churchill?" Which was like the weirdest. Like I didn't know what angle to take at that. That was just so wrong on so many levels.
I thought the two of you played it together when we went camping, and I didn't play it. That's what I'm remembering.
No. Oh, you're thinking of what did we play? It was the Twilight Struggle light game.
14 days?
14 days. Yeah. That's what we played.
Is also, is that also a game about the Cold War?
It is.
Yeah, it was a Cuban Missile
Crisis. Yes. The Cuban Missile Crisis,
yeah. So.
Which, by the way, Love Letter is not about the Cold War, so I don't know where that line is being drawn either.
I'm still confused as to how we're connecting this back to Love Letter, but anyways.
Okay, all right. So Love Letter, not about the Cuban Missile Crisis. Eric, why don't you tell us what it is about?
Well, Love Letter is... Well, actually, you know what you should do? You should probably go to Greg on this, because I think Greg owns this game, and he has the info on what the story is. I've never actually read that out. Obviously... the play of the game, I didn't get the idea of...
How do you know it's not about the Cuban Missile Crisis?
Yeah, that's true. It could be, I suppose. One of them did look like Churchill.
All right. Greg,
No, yeah, from playing the game, I'll just say this: from playing the game, I didn't really fully understand. I could piece something together, but I couldn't fully understand why the game was named Love Letter. I haven't looked anything up on this game.
Okay, Greg, then why don't you take it out for us? What is Love Letter about?
I don't even really know. It's like you're writing. I think the basic idea is you're writing a love letter to the princess. So in the game, like that most powerful card is the princess, but I don't know how that is supposed to come across in the theme, because you can actually be the princess. Are you writing a letter to yourself? I don't know. But that's where love letter comes from. One of the 8 people that are in this game is writing a love letter to the princess, I think.
Okay. All right. How does it feel to play Love Letter? Would be my next question.
The Love Letter is a card game, 100% a card game. It's it's really simple. You have one card. You have a one-hand card the whole time, and on your turn you draw a card, you play a card. That's it. And there's only 15 cards in the whole deck. Whenever the deck runs out, whoever has the highest value card in their hand wins. But it never really gets that far, because each card has a thing that it does. Like, for example, I play a guard. That's the one card. And I can, say, okay, Eric, I think you have the 3, which is the Baron. And if I'm right, he's out of the game. Right? So usually the game ends when everyone has been knocked out but one person. But that's basically it. How any of that is love letter writing, I don't feel that at all. No, I don't.
I feel like it has to do with someone writing the princess a love letter. I think you're right on that.
Yeah, that is what it is. That's the basic idea.
Okay, wait.
I'm sure someone. I'm sure once we post this, someone will say something about that.
By the way,
so you have a one card hand.
Yes.
Yes.
You draw a card. I mean, is it so every turn? Is it basically which of the 2 cards that you now momentarily have do you play?
Absolutely.
Right. Yes.
You got it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And you knock people out of the game by doing what again?
So every card can knock people out in different ways. And that's kind of like where the meat of the game is. Every card's got.
And some of them don't knock people out. Some of them just protect you from being knocked. They all have. This is a game of like some of the cards have. Every card has a special power on it. So the special power, like the handmaid, protects you from anything that turn. Or the priest. The priest lets you look at somebody else's hand. So for like a confessional kind of thing. So there's. It's all dynamics like that. For my money, it felt like a war meets Resistance. The game Resistance, where you're trying to like a social deduction game, where those 2 things merged.
Okay.
Well, one thing I did want to mention before we get off of theme 100%, to show how unthematic the game is. There's different versions of this game. One of the first versions it is Love Letter Batman.
Right. Okay.
Which I guess you're writing a love letter to Batman now. So you have that. But there's also like Love Letter Adventure Time, and there's Love Letter.
A million versions of this game.
Lovecraft Letter.
Lovecraft, yeah.
Where you're trying to write, I don't know, Cthulhu. I don't know what you're doing in that one. But it's so, and it should be noted too, the version we're playing the original Love Letter, because there's actually also Love Letter Premium, which adds up to like 8 players. There's 2019, they did a redo of Love Letter. They've added a couple of cards. It goes to 6 player now, I think. But we're playing the original, this one here, which when it first came out, which is a 2 to 4 player game. I say 3 or 4. I don't think it's any good at 2. 3 to 4 player game. That's it. 15 cards. The whole game is 15 cards. So.
Okay, and you said it takes maybe 5 minutes to play.
5 minutes per round. If you play by the rules, there's actually, every time you win a round, you get like a point. And depending on the player count, you're playing to a certain number of points. So each round is like 5 minutes. The full game,
you don't have to do that.
You don't have to do that, but if you played the full game, it's probably half hour, right? Probably, I would say.
Right. Okay. But
I didn't hear you, Greg. What time limit were you giving it?
If you played the full game,
yeah.
We actually it could go to half hour at max.
Half an hour. I'd say. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, so like a lot of those sort of trick-taking games or those things, they basically make the game go longer by just arbitrarily having you play it more times. Sounds like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's rounds.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, with a game that simple, then normally we would talk about strategy. Is there any opportunity, any space for you to be strategic in this game, Greg?
I want to say something. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, wait.
Sorry.
Well, I feel like we didn't talk about the feel of play.
Okay.
We missed that section.
All right. Yeah. Sorry, I thought that covered it, but yeah, go ahead.
We were spending so much time talking about the deep theme. I think we looked over.
It's easy to get lost. It's easy to get lost in the theme.
I mean, when Churchill got together with Batman, that was very thematic.
to fight Cthulhu.
To fight
That's
Cthulhu.
right. All those years writing love letters to each other, Churchill and Batman.
Who knew?
Yeah, drawn together by their mutual love of defeating Cthulhu. Greg, what were you saying?
Oh, so feel of play. I kind of wanted to talk about that. Eric said something about it being, would you say, war meets resistance?
Yeah.
I guess I can kind of see that. For me, this is a deduction game. That's how it feels when I play. Because a lot of the cards, like for example, guard is the most common card in the deck. There's 5 of them, and that one says like if you can name the card another player has, you knock them out. So there's a lot of like a little. Like you see all the cards that people have played, and then you get other little clues. For example, like the Baron says, that's the 3. It says you compare the card that's in your hand with another player. You compare the numbers, and whoever has the lower value gets knocked out. Well, that's a clue because you see the person gets knocked out, and they had a 4. That means that person has a 5 or higher, and you can start playing the probabilities and stuff like that. So to me,
if a person like plays the Baron and they're certain that they're going to win, that's information too. So that's why I say like the resistance.
Sure.
Reading people and how they play is also a feature of this game.
Yeah, I agree. So resistance is social deduction. So I agree. There's for me that's what this is. It's a very, very short, lightweight deduction game. There's little bits of data out there you're sifting through, trying to figure out what cards in people's hands, and that's to me how it feels. Deduction.
Okay. All right. Now go ahead then and talk about strategy. So why don't we go back to you, Greg? What strategies do you employ as you're trying to make those deductions?
I don't really think there's a lot of strategy in this game.
Just remember stuff?
It's a very, I mean, the deduction's pretty simplistic. I don't think the deduction ever gets too deep. You can see what cards are out. And there's some data you have to sift through, like, okay, this person got knocked out here with this card. Why did they make that call here? There's some, like Eric said, you can kind of read people a little. There's some of that. But it's also a game where you can get knocked out without ever having a turn. So, I mean, it's a 5-minute game. So, it's whatever. But yeah, it can be incredibly luck-driven. I mean, so like the princess, the top card, her text says, if you ever discard her, you're out of the game. So you're trying to prevent discarding her. So once you have her in your hand, you don't even have a choice, right? You just play the other card. You have no choice. So yeah, there's not a ton of strategy in this game. I mean, there's some little bluffing things you can do, maybe that aren't evident in your first play. Like for example, the guard. Your initial impression is, okay, let's see what cards have been played. What is the highest probability of me hitting a card in someone's hand? I'll select that card. Because some cards have 2, for example. But, later on you can think about it. You can go, well, you know what? If I name the card that's in my hand, even though I know I'm not going to get that right, it throws other people off because they will never think that, I would name the card that's in my hand. There's little things you can do like that. I don't think that's deep strategy, but it's a little. There's a little more to it than it would seem like in a 5-minute game, I would say.
Okay. All right, Eric, what do you think? You have anything to add on the strategic component?
I don't have much. This game hates my guts.
Really?
I cannot win this game to save my life.
Eric didn't get a single point last time.
However, it's because it's so random. It's a very random game. However, if I was to give anybody advice, it would be just count those cards. There's not that many to count, so count them. This is actually kind of nice training for playing trick-taking games. Pay attention to the cards. Figure out what's in Greg's hand. Figure that out. You can do it in this game because there's only, what'd you say, 15 cards?
15 cards, yeah.
There's
Yeah,
only
I was
15
going to say
cards.
with 15 cards, that means, and you're looking at 2 of them, right? So
Exactly. So you can do it. And when you discard your cards, they're face up in front of you. They don't get discarded into a pile where it's hidden. They stay out in front of you. I think that's the rule anyway.
Yeah, it is. So you can always count up how many you've been played.
So just use it as training to play other trick taking games, in my opinion. But it's yeah, that's the only tip I would give people is just pay attention to try to figure out what's in other people's hands.
okay, all right. Well, short game. What does Love Letter do well then? Why is it up here on Board Game Geek's popular list? Why is it so popular? What would you guys say, Eric?
I think it's on the list because it is. Well, actually, this is interesting because the previous game we talked about was Splendor, and Splendor, I said, didn't work for me. It pushed it over the line for me because it was too long. So Splendor didn't work as a filler for me. Love Letter is the perfect filler. Perfect. Because it is a wonderful blend of like a traditional card game and a social deduction game, and it takes 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great as far as that's concerned. So really good. Those are the high points for me.
And I think, would you guys say, is this the first social deduction that we've had that we've looked at?
I think
yeah,
so.
I don't know what I would call it.
I mean, there's always
I'm a little skeptical.
It's really light on the social deduction.
Yeah, I'm a little skeptical.
It's a more random card game than social deduction, but there is a little bit of it in there.
I would be hesitant to call it social deduction. I would say it's a deduction game. There's a slight difference there.
Okay. All right. Well, Greg, what about you? What do you think it did well?
Well, I mean, I think what it does the best is clear. I mean, this is the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's tiny, right? So, I mean, even if I didn't care for the game that much, the fact that it takes up pretty much zero space on my shelf, there's never a reason for me to get rid of it.
You have to understand, people. You see that room that Greg is in right now? That's his entire apartment.
That's right.
So
over here is the street, actually.
Yeah. He's sealed in a pod, and every board game that goes into his room reduces the amount of breathable oxygen that he
yeah. So, size matters to me. I actually don't own a lot of stuff. Board game collection is my biggest thing I own, so it matters to me, size of games.
Sure.
But the fact that this is it's super cheap, it's so tiny that
there's a million versions of it.
There's a million
versions of it.
It's like, why not have it? I bought it when it was popular back in the day, and I tried it. And even if I don't play it that much, I'm like, well, it doesn't really take up space. So the size to me is the biggest thing. And then what Eric touched on, length of play, 5 minutes. I rarely play to the points, to be honest with you. This is the perfect game where if you have 3 or 4 people waiting for the other player, and they could be there any minute, you can easily play multiple rounds of Love Letter. And I mean, I say 5 minutes. That's max. I mean, you can play 1 minute, 2 minute rounds.
Well, some people can get knocked out immediately.
Yeah, you can get knocked out instantly. So it's
30 seconds.
It goes fast, and it's for what it's doing for that 5 minutes. It's fun. It's tense. When someone says a guard, I'm pull a guard on Greg. It's tense. Like, do they know what I have? Are they going to get it right? There's enough interesting things going on in the 5 minutes that, yeah, it's worth it. And it's got a tiny bit of deduction in it, which is cool. I like deduction games in general. So, yeah. For the size and length of play, those are its pluses.
Okay. All right. Well, let's look at the flip side then. And to be fair to it, judging it for what it is trying to be, what would you guys say are the things that it really, even so, could have done better? Greg?
At the end of the day, it's just too random, I guess. Which, it is. I mean...
that was going to be my exact words. So you can just skip me, Micah. That was exactly what I was going to say.
I mean, you can literally be kicked out of the game without playing a single card. Like, that can just happen. Someone can pull the guard, they get it right, or they make you discard and you have the princess. I mean, there's so many ways that you can get knocked out of this game. I am hesitant to actually believe there's a whole ton of strategy in this game at all. So there's that. Okay, now for a 5 minute game, that's fine. Okay. I mean, I give it a pass for that, but it is too random and a little too light for me. But that being said, the reason why I never played to the full point total is, because honestly, 30 minutes of Love Letter is just too much. I get bored of 30 minutes. This is not a game I'm like, hey, let's play Love Letter for the next half hour. I would get bored of it after 30 minutes. So to me, that's a sign of a game that's not amazing if I don't want to play it for 30 minutes. That's, you know, this is a game where I'm like, hey, we have 10, 15 minutes. Let's play 2 or 3 rounds of Love Letter. That's exactly where this sits. But even then, there's always the question, like, we have 5 or 10 minutes before someone comes. I mean, would I rather play Love Letter or just talk?
Right.
You know, I mean, I can talk for 10 or 15 minutes. So Love Letter is great when you have 2 or 3 people over, you're waiting on someone, and they're boring people to talk to.
Got it. Sounds
like
a useful, a very useful function.
And we know that previously we have established that our audience is soulless, boring people with no friends. So
right.
Well, they'll love this game.
Yeah.
It gives you something to do.
They may not love it, but the people who have those people over to play games will love it. So
it gives you something to do instead of talk to them for 5 minutes.
Okay, excellent. Eric, anything to add on the negatives other than that it's too random?
Not really. The randomness is the big downside, and that this game totally hates me.
Okay, and that it has nothing to do with Churchill.
Big downside. Big
downside.
By the way, big downside for me.
Yeah. All right. Well, so let's wrap it up then. What are your final thoughts? We're going to go to Eric to get your final thoughts, and as we teased last week, you were going to explain your rating system for us, and then give us a rating. You want to go ahead and take a stab at that?
Yeah, that's right. And the reason I'm doing this now is because we're starting to kick stuff off of our shelf. So as stuff gets kicked off of our shelf, I want there to be an explanation for it. So when I really sat down and thought about what makes a game good for me, I thought that really it's a matter of 5 things. So, and they're like tests. Do they pass or fail? Kind of. And the first one is the pop song test. So can you play pop music while playing this game? So if you can have like a song over it that is catchy and you know, and you can still play the game, then the game fails. You know, because the game should take up the attention of the players. That you shouldn't be able to ignore the game. So the pop song test. The bathroom test is the second one. When you go to the bathroom and you come back, are you eager to come back and like find out what has happened? Well, like who's like what's Greg done? What's Micah done on their turns? Or are you easily distracted from the game? I think one of the most important ones is the what if test. Like, what if I did this instead? What if next time I play this, or this could even apply to like things like role-playing games, like the wonder that's associated with things. What if I did this instead? Does it pass that test? And that can be for mechanics or for interaction with people too. So like a social deduction game isn't going to have a lot in the way of mechanics, but what if I had said things just a little bit differently, then that it passes that test. I think last time we talked about the high five test. Can you ever imagine a moment in this game where you would jump up and just shout for joy because you did something awesome or someone could give you a high five? And then finally, the picture test is, are you ever going to feel motivated to take a picture of this game at the end? That could also apply to the tactile nature of it as well. Like does it feel good to play? But some games just look really good on when they're put out, and I think that for me anyway, I've talked many times about how I like to have maps and visuals and stuff like that. So those 5 things, the aesthetics of a game. So those 5 things: the pop song test, the bathroom test, the what if test, the high five test, and the picture test. And of varying degrees, maybe it barely passes, but other doesn't. I think the only place that Love Letter totally fails, in my opinion, is the picture test. No one would want to take a picture of this game. But there's some high five moments in this game. What if? Not so much, but I think it does a little bit. Like, I think it barely passes that test, because there could have been like, well, what if I had done what Greg said and played the guard card and said, well, I think you have the 8, but I have the 8. What if I had done that differently? Everything else, I think it does really well. Like I'm eager when I have to take a break, when I have to run to the bathroom and I come back, I'm eager to find out what people have done, or what's going on in the game. And with the pop song test, you can't play music over this game. You need to be interacting with people. You need to be talking. So Love Letter actually scores pretty high in my rating system. I thought 7 points. So I'll rate it a 7.
Are you giving, for those 5 categories, are you giving like between a 0, 1, and 2 for each of them? Is that
Yeah,
what
1 and
add
2
up
on
to
each.
10? What's that? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, Greg, what about you? Final thoughts on Love Letter?
Yeah, I mean, it basically comes down to the size of the game and how quickly it plays. So it gets played. I still pull it out once in a while. It's the right situation. So for that reason, it gets a 6. It's not. If I lost this game, I don't think I'd be too heartbroken. But since I do have it, the situations occur where I'm like, hey, 3 or 4 people, we got 5 minutes. Let me pull this out. So it's good. Yeah, for the size and the price, why not? Grab it.
Okay. All right. Well, we have our 10-game shelf. It sounds like for as short and light and random as it is, it does seem like it's a game that provides a pretty distinct function that it doesn't really seem like we have duplicated anywhere else on our shelf. So the question is that unique function make it worth putting on the shelf and kicking something else off? Or does Love Letter get the boot? What do you guys think?
Well,
I have a suggestion.
Yeah.
I also have a suggestion.
Go ahead, Greg.
I think for a 10-game shelf, it's such a small collection that I just would not want to use a slot on a game of this weight. It's in if we were to do like bigger libraries, like 25 games or 50 games, I could see making an argument for a Love Letter because it fills such a specific niche. But on a 10-game shelf, I feel like those need to be meaty enough and long enough because you only got 10 games. So no, I don't think Love Letter would go on a 10-game shelf.
All right.
Well, maybe I can talk into this, Greg, because I think that I think it does belong on the shelf. But I'm going to pitch 2 games that it could possibly kick off. So first, let's talk about Ticket to Ride. And I know, but I don't like the game. But the reason I don't think that I honestly, well, yeah, I do think Love Letter is better than Ticket to Ride. But as far as enjoyment is concerned, I understand the meatiness level of it. But I think Ticket to Ride, a lot of what Ticket to Ride brings to the table is covered better in Power Grid. So
No.
Yes, totally. So
no,
since
Power Grid is so
you
much
said
heavier.
it a few times. No, you said it a few times in your. So yeah, but what I'm saying is we get rid of Ticket to Ride. We bring in Love Letter. Love Letter is so light. It's a filler. We don't have any fillers.
We don't have a filler, but I don't think we have room for a lot of fillers.
We have room for 1 filler, and this would be our filler.
No, but
Codenames isn't a filler.
I feel like if the filler would have to be a little meatier than this. To me, this
Well,
is not
but
even.
yeah, eventually
This is
Love
not
Letter's
even
going to
a
get kicked out.
To me, this is not even a filler. This is like a
This
filler
is the
filler.
perfect filler.
No, I don't think so.
Perfect filler.
See, you said that you didn't think of Splendors being a filler, but I do. I still think of Splendors being a filler.
I don't feel like spending 30 minutes on a filler game.
I know, but everyone has different descriptions of a filler. For me,
I think this is a perfect
game.
Plus, you could play this. You could play Love Letter to its actual completion, and it would be 30 minutes. That's why
I don't like it. But that's why I'm saying once you play 30 minutes of Love Letter, I'm done. I'm bored of it.
You wouldn't okay? So maybe not Ticket to Ride. I really wanted to bring into relief Ticket to Ride versus Power Grid though, because I think Power Grid does a lot of what.
But those are completely different games. To me, Power Grid is like
they are, because Power Grid's way better.
But no, for me, I think of this shelf as groups. People are over at my house. I got to have a game that works with them, right? Ticket to Ride, I would play with anyone, Power Grid I would only play with people who could handle a meaty, heavy game. So maybe there's some similarities kind of on the map, but I would pull them out for completely different groups. And to me, that's what a collection should be, is like, how many situations, how many groups can I play? Love Letter, I would never play. It would have to be an addition to our game, right? I never just played Love Letter by itself.
Sure.
It's just, like, hey, I got a group of 4 people. Hey, let's play Love Letter all day tonight.
Well, if you're not gonna join me on the Ticket to Ride thing, I didn't expect that. What about bumping King of Tokyo?
Oh no, not at all. King of Tokyo is exactly a game that we do not have anything to replace it with. I feel like the collection
because the Love Letter is just as random as King of Tokyo. King of Tokyo is super random, but it's with dice, not cards. Also, King of Tokyo is a much longer game, and neither of us really enjoyed it. Ultimately, I think we both enjoy Love Letter more than King of Tokyo.
I don't.
Really?
I enjoy Love Letter in 5-minute chunks. That's the point. King of Tokyo is like the only beer and pretzels game that we have on the list. I don't think we have anything even remotely close to being that type of game. I feel like King of Tokyo, even though there's better games out there, I'd want that on the list for a while, actually, because of that reason. I feel like we have duplicates. Duplicates, the only ones I would even consider, because I feel like they're already duplicating other things on the shelf, is maybe Dominion. I could see getting kicked off. Because, I feel like there's other games on the shelf.
Dominion.
What's that?
I really liked Dominion. I don't think Dominion did much
I gave it a 6.
Did I?
Yes.
Well, I may have been wrong.
Anyways.
No, I really liked Dominion.
My main argument here with Love Letter is I just think for a 10-game shelf, there's just not enough here. I agree this is good for certain situations, but I don't think 10-game shelves afford you these little tiny niche situations like, oh, I have 5-10 minutes. I mean, yes, that happens sometimes, but I don't think it happens enough that I want to take a whole slot away for that.
Right. And I just feel like this is the only game that can fill that amount of time, like to have a filler. Like if we were thinking seriously about having a 10-game shelf and then we have got to share one, like I would want to have a game that we could play 5-minute games of.
Well, I think you need to brush up your conversation skills.
Well, how do we resolve disagreements?
Well, what are you talking about kicking off?
I was talking about Ticket to Ride or King of Tokyo.
But man, those two I would really like to keep on the shelf, though. For one, Ticket to Ride is the only game we have on the shelf that I feel is like can fit a non-gamer group and last a whole evening. Right?
No way.
What else? What else would you teach?
A Love Letter would be easy for that.
You would play Love Letter all night long.
No, I wouldn't play it all night long. No.
So what I'm saying is, you got like.
But you're talking about playing with non-gamers. I mean, why would you want to force gamers to play games when they don't want to? If they were
but I'm saying you got
something,
non-gamers over, and they're like, "Hey, you like games? Let's play a game tonight." We've never played any games except Monopoly.
Okay.
What game do you pick to play with them if you don't have Ticket to Ride on the list?
Off of our list, Catan.
No, I wouldn't pick Catan for a few reasons. One, Catan is only going to work at 4-player, possibly 3, so you're very limited in your player count. 2 to 5 for Ticket to Ride. Catan it's fine, but for me, Catan, the big thing is the player count. The shelf.
I mean, what's the rules of this made-up scenario then?
Well, no, because it's a 10-game shelf that I have to share, right?
Sure.
So I need games that are going to play multiple situations, multiple people coming. And that's why player count is going to matter a lot to me, because I'm like, okay, well, I got people. I could have anywhere from 1 person over I want to play games with up to 4 people coming over I want to play games with. Ticket to Ride covers a lot of scenarios because it works 2 to 5 with non-gamers. Catan is only going to work if I happen to have 3 people over. You know what I mean? Like, I think when you have such a limited amount of games, you need games that are going to cover multiple scenarios. Right. That's what I think of with the shelf. And that's why I don't think Love Letter fits, because I think it's such a specific scenario. We don't have room for something that's such a specific player, I guess. You know what I mean? It's just too specific for me. And if you wanted to kick something out, I could be okay with Dominion going, because I didn't really care for that game. But I don't know.
I like Dominion. Dominion's our only deck builder.
So what?
About code names.
Codenames
No,
is our
no.
only party
Codenames is our
game.
only party game. And I feel like they should
But
have put it
Codenames
on
isn't a
party.
Well,
filler.
because okay, so let me interject. It seems like as this goes on, eventually you're going to not be able to cover all the functions,
No,
That's
you
probably
can't.
right? So
Yeah.
eventually you're going. The fact that it's your only party game or your only beer and pretzel game or your only, whatever it is not going to save it because something's going to have to go, right?
Yeah, exactly. But see, that's why I say love letter. It's going to be something you play in addition to something.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not something that I don't know. It's
Okay.
Something
Well,
that
I will
feels
yield.
adjacent to
I'll
another
yield
game.
to that. Like a lot of this is heavily tinged by the fact that I just really don't like Ticket to Ride, and I think that
well. Look, I understand.
King of
Someday
Tokyo is. Yeah, go ahead.
I realize someday we're going to kick off Ticket to Ride because you don't like it. But if we're going to kick it off, it needs to be replaced with a game that can play new people. I just don't feel like we have many games
For a long time, you're saying for like an evening.
Yeah, when people come over, they want to play a board game.
Mm-hmm.
They say, "Hey, I want to play a board game." You want to set a board in front of them, play like an hour. That's a board game evening. If I pull out Love Letter and we play like a 5-minute game, yeah, it's cool, but it didn't feel like a game night. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I would go with Catan there, but you're saying that Catan, its player count is too limiting.
Player count's too limited, and I do feel like even though I like Catan, it's going to have to go eventually just because it doesn't.
Oh,
play
sure,
that
yeah,
many
it'll go
players.
eventually.
All
right, well, for time's sake, I will yield, and we will not have Love Letter. I really liked Love Letter. I really liked it. Just I will.
No, I do
I will
too.
let it go. I will let it slip into the ocean and sing
and
Titanic
in a
songs
bigger
to it.
library, totally, I would say Love Letter, but I think 10's is too limited to keep.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Well, sorry, Eric.
Yep. Boo-hoo.
Yeah, but
goodbye, Churchill.
You'll get
goodbye, Batman.
You'll get your revenge on Ticket to Ride someday. I know you will. All right.
Cthulhu rises again.
So those are our thoughts on Love Letter. Sounds like it's pretty easy to give it a try if you're curious about it. Meantime, please leave us a comment. Let us know if you completely disagree with Greg and you think that Love Letter is a fantastic game and should kick off Ticket to Ride or Dominion or King of Tokyo or Catan or any of those other games, Agricola, then leave us a comment and let us know. And what are we going to be looking at next time?
Seven Wonders Duel.
Is that related to the Seven Wonders that we've already covered?
Shockingly, yes. For 2 people, hence Duel.
Okay, so that's it for Love Letter, though. As a reminder, we release new episodes on the 1st and the 15th of every month, so stay tuned for those. Please give us a like and also subscribe. It helps us out since we're a new channel. And until then, this has been A Piece of the Action.
That's a tough one. I'm going to go with Spock because I seem to recall, like, wasn't he on the operating table with like that? The top of his head was like hidden, and McCoy was working on his brain because he was like connecting every little neuron together, or something
Every neuron,
piece by piece.
Right.
Every blood vessel was being,
and it's
together.
hard because when you put them together, it's like you try it once and then you have to flip one over and then you try it again.
Exactly.
So.
But I remember during that surgery, Spock was awake and he was talking, and I
that feels like a Spock line. I don't know why.
I just vaguely remember
Leonard Nimoy trying to
pull this one out of the garbage, the dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I kind of vaguely remember like maybe McCoy like misconnected something and like he just started spouting gibberish or something. That's what I'm gonna go with.
I know I've seen this is the episode Spock's Brain, obviously.
Spock's Brain.
I know I've seen it, but I don't remember.
Which is not the worst episode of TOS, by the way.
Really? What do you think the worst episode is?
Oh, that's easy. That's the one with the hippie people. I hate that episode.
Oh, really? Oh, interesting.
I hate
the
that
one where
episode
like
so
the apple.
No, not the apple. It's in this 3rd season. I forget what it's called now. Paradise's Children. No, what's it called? I forget what it's called now. But it's where the hippies come on board and they're like playing like the music and.
Is it the one where they see someone committing, like they see someone kissing and so they kiss? Is that
No,
episode?
that's you're thinking of the Apple.
That's the Apple. Yeah.
No, this is the one with
I
the
don't remember
hippies,
this
like
one then.
literal hippies from the 70s.
Oh no, I don't remember that.
Come on board is the cringiest episode of all time. It's bad.
Okay.
But yeah. Anyways, continue. Spock's brain is bad, but not that bad.
All
So
right,
we're going with
saying
Spock. I'm okay with that. I have no idea. No, incorrect. The answer is C, Kara.
Oh, okay.
Who's that?
So I guess we'll have to watch it again.
Who's
I guess so.
Kara?
You should put a picture of her up on the screen
Yeah, I
screen
will.
right now.
Okay.
That's Kara.
Right. Well, way to go.
Way to lose your brain.
Wow, I think it's the second time we've got this wrong.
That's number two.
The
Yeah.
problem is we all go in together, and so. But by the way, I should mention, like, I've seen the original series once when I was like 16. So.
Well, we should do a
watched them all
Zoom
again, like-
showing.
So it's all,
Yeah.
and I mean, and we've talked about my memory. So even if I had seen
Yeah.
it, like,
That's true.
Well, I watched them all like last year, and I forgot.
When we get to a certain point in this show, we should transition over to TNG. We know a lot more about
I
TNG
agree.
because it's from our.
yeah, well, or it should be all like that. The new stuff. You could do TNG, DS9, and Voyager all together.
Yeah.
As far as
Yeah.